Hey everyone, how you doing today? Thought I'd show you a couple RE2 prototype tanks I've been working on. I showed early works of this one a couple days ago. I did kind of finish up the build. It needs a couple tweaks. I'll go over that in a second. And then I started a weird new one as well that I'm not really liking so much at the moment, but they're very similar in specs and things like that. I'm kind of liking this one a little bit more than the other one, at least visually speaking. The other one would have a feature this one doesn't have, though. To start with, though, what I'm trying to accomplish with this build is to build a Core 7 tank that can do a lot of DPS to both shielded and non-shielded POIs on the ground. And I'm trying to keep it like it's safe and can take a bunch of hits and have really good maneuverability as well, and hopefully not just blow up and stuff like that. So this is where I'm at with this one. I haven't painted it yet, but I pretty much have all the major block work and stuff done with it. All the specs are worked out. Backside of it's kind of looking like this right now. It's kind of a plain Jane looking build. Not a lot of bells and whistles going on with it, but again, I want this for gameplay use, and I'm just trying to work out the numbers and try to come up with the best concoction I can figure out. And neither of these builds are built for looks, really. I'm trying to make them look all right, but they're not top charts there or anything like that. But anyway, this one does have a lot of utility function on the back. You got your clone chamber, fridge, not a food processor, O2 armor locker, and trauma station. You do have a couple cargo boxes as well, and then the landing gear are kind of like rear mounted, kind of how they are. Let me get this off the ground a little bit, and we'll go over the numbers and the specs here. Also, it has 9K ammo storage. It does have Wi-Fi detector. It does have a heavy shield in it. On the bottom side, the layout is a lot like the MCRN Scorpion, where basically there's not much going on in the front of the tank here. You've got this big bulldozer blade, and the reason why I've got this on here is it's got 10,000 hit points. And if you look at the specs on it, it has 50% blast protection. So I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. Now you compare 10,000 hit points to a standard steel block. For HV, it's 500 hit points. So big more hit points there, plus that blast protection. Weapons-wise, when I put this to the workshop, it wouldn't have any of the guns on it, and you'd be able to outfit it. But what I'm want to do for gameplay as a good test here is I really stacked plasma on this thing. It's running 4 light plasma turrets and then 3 medium plasma turrets. And the reason why I wanted to go this route is that they do shield damage. They're not optimal for shield damage, but they all do shield damage, and they do a lot of hull damage at the same time. So basically, when you come up into enemy POI or something like that, you know, whether it's got a shield on or not, you don't have to go into the P menu and adjust your weapon settings or anything like that. You just let go. You know, take that shield down as fast as possible, and then just hammer away at its defenses after that. And you know, stacking this many of these turrets on here, I'm hoping produces pretty good results. I didn't want the situation where I got, say, some laser turrets, or there's some other things like EMP and whatnot as well. I didn't really want to have, like, when I'm in battle and it's like, okay, the shield's down now I got to, like, try to get over to the P menu and switch my weapon, you know, to now turn on the plasma or whatever. I just kind of wanted to not think about it. And the reason why both these builds here have a Gatling gun is to shoot the little sentry guns inside POIs. I know it's a little hard to aim with the tank, but, you know, I like that option. It's definitely a nice thing. Otherwise, you just can't. I guess the only other option beyond that would be to manually get into one of the turrets and try to get the right angle and shoot at it that way. I mean, you can do that too, so you still have an option, but I decided to go with just a single Gatling gun. Maybe you could shoot some ground troops with it or something too if need be. I don't know. So a couple other tech spec things on this thing. I think I covered the main numbers. Well, first here, I'll drive it around and show you how it's operating. Now, let's just pretend this Plutus was a POI. Typically in tank combat, I'll usually be like strafing around it like this. Now, this tank is really designed to never turn around and flee your target. Basically, if your shields are getting low, back away from the target. You don't want to be turning around and like say, oh no, my shields are down, and I go like this and I start fleeing. Bad idea, because then you can't see really what's coming in at you or anything like that. So third person view I also was kind of concerned about. So this is its stock third person view, and I kind of like it. Now obviously you can turn real sharp with this. You got pretty good strafing forward. All your thruster speeds are up there pretty good. Actual specs here. You can see the numbers here. So 64 forward, 47 strafing, 88 on the yaw. This is the one I wanted to be as high as I could get it, and 39 in pitch. I didn't really want much roll, not on a tank. I've had tanks that rolled more, and say you're strafing around, you bump into a rock or a twig or something, and you flip over. That does not help your combat at all. So I like a kind of a stable platform, generally speaking, with a HV tank. So yeah, numbers wise, I like the way it drives and everything like that. It's stock shield strength, and it's not really going to change. The stock shield strength is it's running a single heavy shield, and it's 10,644 or 664. Now currently I'm 133 over the Core 7 CPU, and it is a Core 7 build, 2 basics, 2 improved, and 2 advanced. Couple other minor details here. Now, I plan on fixing up that CPU, and I've got some ways to do that. One thing I wanted to show you too, a little thing that's going on here, and I'm gonna hit the O key to level this out a second. And basically, what I have this doing is the way I've got the. Oh, wait a minute, why did I do that? So weird. Maybe I should have spawned a platform here, but essentially speaking, the exact opposite's happening from what was just happening a minute ago. Hold on. Yeah, basically the front end is supposed to be a little bit higher off the ground than the back end. And I think it is. Yeah. Actually, when I hit the O key, it isn't really doing anything now. I guess it really is very dependent on where you are. But anyway, I was trying to keep the front end a little bit higher than the back end. If I were to move these hover engines back over next to the other ones, then the front end will drop down more. And and it's basically just trying to keep the front end just a little bit higher than the back end, which I think helps a little, some with navigating over terrain and mountains and rocks and things like that when you're cruising around with an HV. Other little details on it. Now, right now I have a detector here. I'm going to move that. I forgot that I had some locations on the interior up in this area that don't have any blocks in there yet. So I got on either side, there's basically 6 block spaces here. Now on defensive stuff too, again, the front end is, you can lose the whole front end, and there's no like main parts out here. A couple hover engines and a couple of the minor strafing thrusters, but your big strafing thrusters are in back over here. As in layers getting from the sides to the interior, basically you got a steel wall here, you got your thrusters, then you got another steel wall here, and then there's the fuel tanks are located here, and then there's another steel wall on the other side of the fuel tanks. Now, I got a little bit of a power problem with this one at the moment, and I've got to fix that up. Basically, I'm running a single 1x3 generator here, but that wasn't quite enough, so I added a little baby generator here, and that is mostly good enough, but there's a certain circumstance where I can get it to 104% power usage. So, and I'm also a little bit over on CPU on this one by 133. So what my plan is I may have to downgrade the strafing thrust here. These are the 1x3 versions, and I could put in the 1x2 versions, which will free up more CPU. And then what I would like to do is upgrade that baby generator to a 1x2 generator instead. And I might move that. I'm probably going to move it. Now this area is there's a lot of storage or container extensions in the area here as well, but the outer walls are all steel. There's no container extensions exposed on the exterior of the creation at all. They're all internal. 9K ammo storage, and that's all it's got. I did not put in any harvest bay. This can cut trees, but it's not for that. It's for defensive purposes. However, cutting trees isn't a bad thing with an HV. If you're dealing with a POI that's got a bunch of trees and crap around it, you can like chop those out of your way. So that'll be kind of helpful as well. But it's mainly there for its defensive quality. And I think that's kind of mainly what it's for in the first place, looking at the numbers, especially with its 50% extra blast resistance that it has. So that's on this version of the tank. So I started building this other one too, and this one I had a weird idea with, that I wanted it to look like a drone tank. So that was the idea I was going on when making this. I wanted it to kind of look like it was an unmanned drone kind of thing. However, this one, kind of the exact opposite. This one's very similar to that one in specs. Same Core 7, same weapon loadout. Well, not at the moment. But this one would have an interior space to it, which has its pros and cons, basically. Interior space, I kind of like it. You know, it feels a little more immersive and things like that. The con would be, with an HV at least the way I got this one configured, is you got that very vulnerable back door on it, which is just scary. The doors hardly have any hit points. You can double up the doors or even triple up the doors, but they're still super weak. And you're like right in the center of the door. There's no room in this build to put like a blast wall on the other side of this one, like I did with some other tanks. So it's kind of a vulnerability from the backside on this one. Now again, you're not supposed to have the backside exposed to, you know, getting shot at if you're piloting it properly, at least on these kinds of builds here. But that is kind of a problem there. One advantage, however, though, would be you could deploy a drone from inside the tank. So there is that advantage, and all these parts that are on the back of this one would be placed on the interior of the other one. Now this one does have another steel wall on the backside of all the parts here as well, just as more protection. Now I didn't use any blocks but steel on this build, so there's no carbon on it at all, but there's also currently no hardened steel or anything like that either. But basically, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with it, but I think it's kind of, you know, a couple tweaks to it. Maybe downgrade at least one or two of these thrusters on either side. Get the little bit bigger generator in there and fill in those little holes I've got. Move that detector, put it over here, seal that up a little bit more. And I think this thing will be pretty much good to go. That's weird that I've got this angled block under there. And then it needs to be painted, and when I paint it, I'll probably try to add a little accents and things like that. Right now, I'm kind of leaning towards Scar on this one. Doesn't really conform with the normal-looking human tanks that I would do, but I think it could work with Scar if it was textured nicely and maybe had a couple little trim accents on it. Neither of these tanks do I think are very pretty, though. Especially this one. This one's really quite ugly. In my head, it was supposed to look a little better than this, but it just didn't really come out that way, especially after I had to fit the thrusters and get those in places and stuff like that. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with this one. Specs on this one, very similar to the other one. The way it moves and stuff. It has less pitch on this one, which I don't think is necessarily a good thing. Not on the tank. I did want some pitch so you can angle it up and down easier when manually trying to fire that Gatling gun on sentry guns and things like that. So yeah, kind of this one I think is the better of the two versions right now. I'm not ruling out the idea of having a tank with an interior that can do these kinds of specs as well. That is certainly possible. But I think I would want to reconfigure it actually. If I did have interior space, I might want or maybe even a single side entry door and not one on the back. I think that would be a safer place to put it. I've seen that done on some other tanks, and it's a good way to go about it. And then you don't have to worry so much about that back end hit pulverizing yourself and everything in the interior space, which is just bad. Trying to think if I missed anything on this. I think I covered all the stuff, and I'm really curious on what you guys think about it. One last thing, I think I mentioned it already, but like this build, I do plan on finishing this one up and getting it to the workshop at this point after some tweaks and texturing. But it will come without its guns, so you can put on whatever guns you want. This is just the loadout I'm thinking about using in my own gameplay, and this is what I can afford with it. Basically, 4 light plasma turrets and 3 medium plasma turrets, plus the Gatling gun. And I think that would be a nice combination to try to take down POIs, both with shields or without shields. And you could always put on maximum firepower and not really have to frog around in the P menu and do things and all that stuff either. So it's just pretty straightforward on how it works. Meant to be a disposable tank. Again, one other side effect of this tank, there is not an upgrade path for it. I don't have places to add additional shield parts or anything else. It's just kind of a Core 7, not upgradable, disposable tank. And that's really what I was just trying to build. See how that would work out. Play with it in game for a little while. Might get some more ideas to build something a little higher end that would have an interior space, more upgrade potential, things like that. This one's just kind of, let's see how it does, you know, before I get too carried away with going on this principle. I could have some things wrong here. I could certainly have some things wrong here. It's always scary. You know, I try to make it as strong as I could. And I think, you know, as in the front end, if your front end started getting pulverized, first, hopefully this lasts a little while. But even if this whole area gets blown up, again, you're going to be pretty all right. It's after this other wall gets penetrated, and there's more blocks around here, except for that generator's popping out a little bit on the forward side there. I actually kind of wouldn't mind moving that back into the row, but there's still a lot of distance from the front to even where you get to that generator, and a couple more block rows in front of that generator, even behind the front defense area here. So, yeah. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, I wanted to show you that. Please let me know what you think. I'll definitely be checking your comments and stuff before I get this out to the workshop. It's quite possible I missed something. A couple things I didn't mention here. It does have Wi-Fi. It does have a detector as well. I mean, and it has a little bit of a power issue at the moment, and I gotta fix that up. We're in testing while charging the shield. Certain maneuvers can hit 104% power usage. So that's why I think I need the second generator of the 1x2 version instead of the 1x1 version. So I'm going to have to change some CPU around a little bit. And the only place I can really cut CPU is these thrusters. The only thing that sucks about this blade, it does require 750 CPU for the blade. I don't really like using that much CPU on it, especially for defensive purposes. I could cut the blade and put on some hardened steel or combat steel blocks in its place. That could probably also be fairly effective, and then I would have a lot more CPU to work with. So that's another option. All right, other than that, I will shut up, and you guys all have yourself a great day. I'll talk to you later.